as I promised before the break, there is breaking news coming out. Besides the fact that we've seen that Kirsten Gillibrand is about to get out of the race, she's basically done because she needs the help of Cory Booker, her competitor, to even be in the race, which is just pure Machiavellian politics going on. And I think all the poli-sci students should be checking this out. It's so incredible. But beyond that, let's look at what else is going on here. Beyond the fact that there's the SUNY Broome homeless awareness event tomorrow at 4:30 that I'll be speaking at. I advise you to come down, check it out, look on in the news for it. But no, there's more news that's coming out right now, and that is that we're going to see Bill de Blasio is now a candidate for the for the 2020 presidential race. That's right. The mayor of New York City is now in the race. Bill de Blasio himself. Wow. That's just amazing to me. And I have to tell you, it's amazing because look at what the New York Post has to say about it. The news just came out 5 hours ago. And already the New York Post put it out, de Blasio runs for president, and everyone is laughing. That's what the New York Post has to say about it on their front page on their late city final edition. Right after the news came out that Bill de Blasio wants to run for the 2020 presidential race. President Trump has already said that this is a joke, and I have to tell you, it really is. What does Bill de Blasio bring to the 2020 race that doesn't already exist? We know that what he does bring is he is another old white man. That is a fact. He is another old white man in the race. So that's wonderful news, right? If you really care about the gender and identity politics, he's a rich, old white man, which, according to gender identity politics, is the worst thing you could possibly have, running the Democratic Party or being a president. And yet that's exactly what he is, and that's what he's offering. So that's got to be depressing to a lot of Democrats, I would think. And when you look at this, would that put him up there with Biden and Bernie Sanders, two other old white men that are leading the party right now? Biden in particular by double. Bernie Sanders, his next closest choice, and almost 4 times as much as Warren or anyone else in the race. It kind of says a lot about what's going on in Democratic politics right now. And I look at Biden, when I look at de Blasio and this news announcement, I have to agree with the New York Post. They got it right. This is a joke. This is a major joke. And you say to yourself, well, Mike, why is it a joke? What's so funny about this? Well, if you happen to look at Quinnipiac, the polling for the Quinnipiac Poll, they do polls, national polls about races and all the major issues that are affecting not just New York State, but the nation as a total, and how New York State is reacting to that. Well, if you look at the most recent polling from April 3rd of 2019, the Quinnipiac Poll asked New Yorkers, would you like to see Bill de Blasio run for president in 2020 or not? That was the question they asked. And the answer was 76% of New York said no. They don't want Bill de Blasio running in the race, that they didn't like Bill de Blasio. Only 18% said yes. And that's 21%. Only 21% of Democrats said that they think that Bill de Blasio would be a good choice. That's horrible. And it gets even worse. If you're looking at just in New York City, only 27% of the Bronx, 15% of Brooklyn, 14% of Manhattan, 20% of Queens, 13% of Staten Island. That's all that said yes, they think that Bill de Blasio is a good choice. I mean, it's 70% across the board or worse that say no, Bill de Blasio is just not a good choice for the 2020 presidential election. If you're looking at the question, they also asked, would Bill de Blasio mayor of New York be a good thing for New York City? Would it even be good just on the city level? Just on the city level. And the answer that they got back about that was 41% said no. 43%. Just in the Bronx alone. But in the city, 47% said no, this would be bad. This would be a bad thing for New York City. So New York City, that know Bill de Blasio the very best, are coming out and saying in droves that they think this is a horrible idea, that Bill de Blasio running for president is the worst thing you can do. And that kind of brings me back to what we think about with Kirsten Gillibrand. The majority of people in the state of New York don't think this is a good choice. Whether they're Democrats or Republicans, they think this is a horrible idea. That's for our senator. And here in New York City, they're saying it's a horrible idea, that this is the worst thing. In fact, there was a MSNBC, one of the least right-leaning organizations you can put out there in the news media, went out and asked the public live, what did they think? What was the reaction of average people on the street of New York City over on 14th Avenue? They were out there and at the train station, and they're asking people, hey, what do you think about this? People are laughing on air, laughing. They're saying it's a joke, that this should have come out on April 1st because it's such a big joke, that this is a horrible choice for the nation. Why did Bill de Blasio decide that this late in the game, a month before he has to be able to get onto the stage, not having the support? I don't understand. What's going on in the Democratic Party that someone decides, hey, I'm rich, so I should run. There's the answer. I'm rich, so I should run. I run New York City. His thing is I run New York City. New York City hates him. New York City doesn't think he's a good candidate. New York City is telling the rest of the nation, don't put this man into the race for the presidency, and yet he's running anyway. I don't understand. That's ego. That's just ego. And that's a thing we see with a lot of these candidates for the presidential race, the nomination amongst the Democrats. A lot of them are just, I don't know what they're thinking. But I have to tell you, when I look at people like Buttigieg, this is just ego. He's just there because he's a gay man. He has no issues that are really important. When you look at Yang, who's at 0.8%, he has nothing to offer. No one's paying attention to him. No one cares. Why is he in the race? Inslee at 0.7%. No one even knows who Inslee is. Gabbard. Have you even heard anything about Gabbard? Castro? Klobuchar? You don't even hear about them because they have nothing to offer. But yet they're in the race. And now we have Bill de Blasio, officially number 23 out of some 33 people. He's not even in the predicted charts. Predicted doesn't even have him listed as a possible candidate. That's just crazy. That is really crazy. And so when I'm looking at this, I have to say, gee, what does Bill de Blasio bring to the public in a race? And the answer for that is he brings minimum wage. He brings the $15 minimum wage. That's his big thing. He wants to make a $15 minimum wage for New York City. And that's one of his big claims to fame, that he was going to make sure that New York City was able to have, and we see this article from, NewYorkCity.gov. Mayor de Blasio announces guaranteed $15 minimum wage for all city government employees, benefiting 50,000 additional New Yorkers. That was from January 6th of 2016. He then went on to push for the $15 minimum wage for workers in New York City. And that was for the fast food workers in New York City. It was a big deal. Everyone was screaming about it. In 2018, it was a big push by unions and by Democrats that you have to have the $15 minimum wage for a living wage, something that we've seen done in Seattle. We've seen it done across cities throughout the nation. And just like every single city that has done it before, just like what the CBO promised us in 2016, what we see is that it has hurt every single person. And in the form, there was actually an article from Forbes, Massachusetts and New York beginning to see the ugly side of minimum wage hikes. That was from April 6th of 2019. You can look it up. And in that article, they say, quote, the result, meaning the $15 minimum wage increase, the result, close to 3/4 of restaurants in New York City have cut labor since the minimum wage was raised to $15 per hour. That's according to a survey by New York City Hospitality Alliance. Specifically, 76.5% of full-service restaurant respondents said they had a cut to employee hours. 36% said they cut jobs in 2018 in response to the mandatory minimum wage hikes. And that goes right along with the Bureau of Labor Statistics data, which shows that New York City full-service restaurant employees has gone from 8% growth in 2012 to a negative 2% growth in the last 2 years. People are losing jobs. And again, this is from the article by Forbes magazine on April 6, 2019, Massachusetts and New York beginning to see the ugly side of minimum wage hikes. This is what Bill de Blasio brings to the table.